So you want to host a retreat. In this video, I'm going to share with you certain steps that you can take to make sure your retreat is successful. In this video, I'm going to cover everything from designing your retreat at the outset for the audience, all the way to the logistics and planning that you'll have to think about as you put your retreat together, and even talk a little bit about how to successfully complete a retreat and reflect on it to make sure that you did everything you need to. So let's go. A retreat is an opportunity to bring people together to create a transformational experience, to achieve a goal, to bond, to connect, to create insights and ahas. It's really a powerful container within which to offer people a life transformation. This is why I run retreats. This is why I've spent the last 10 years of my life almost perfecting the art of leading these retreats and helping other people lead these experiences in a profitable way that can serve as a business model. Because a lot of people lead retreats, but then they don't know how to actually monetize them effectively. So the model that I'm going to share with you here will help you do all of those things. The first thing and the most important part of any retreat is who's going to be there. Who are the participants? And so before you even start to market or sell it, you want to think about who is your audience for this. And one of the biggest issues that I see people facing, or coaches facing, when they're trying to design their retreats, they think that it's for everyone. And they say, well, everyone could attend this retreat. Anyone could benefit from it. And that could be true, and that's fine. The problem is that it's really difficult to market to everyone. It's really difficult to market to anyone. It really helps to define your retreat, make it easier to market and fill if you're orienting it toward a specific ideal person. Now, it doesn't mean that that's the only person that you'll enroll, that somebody has to meet those exact criteria, but it does help for you to solidify and focus your efforts to have clarity on who the audience is. Once you know who it is, for example, your audience might be stay-at-home moms, or it might be working moms, it might be entrepreneurial moms, or it might be single dads, whatever your audience. It could be brand new managers about to step into their first leadership role. It could be people who are spiritually curious, or people who recently got diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. Whatever your audience is, once you focus in on them, you'll want to look at what their pain and possibilities are. The pain is, what are they struggling with? What are they looking for a solution to? What would entice them to participate in the retreat? What is it that they're wanting to move away from? On the other side, the flip side of that is, what is the possibility? What do they want? What are they trying to move towards, right? Because everybody is generally, will take an action, will enroll in a retreat, let's say, if they're trying to either move away from something or move towards something, or some combination of both. So just to give you an example, because I'm the easiest example, the one that I know best. In my own business, when I'm designing a retreat, I'm designing it for influencers and thought leaders and coaches who want to develop more scalable, successful businesses. So the pain point that they have is that they've got up and down revenue. They've got roller coaster revenue and not enough time. So they want to create more prosperity without creating more work for themselves. The possibility that they see is to have more inbound business, have more monthly recurring revenues, more stabilization. So that's my audience. Those are the pain points and the possibilities. Once you have clarity about who you're serving in this retreat and what they need and what they want, then you can start to look at what is the transformation that you want to deliver in your 3-day or 4-day or 5-day or whatever, however many days format. I call that the transformation trajectory. I'm not going to go deep into that on this particular video because I have other videos where I go very deep into that, and I'll link to some of them below. But in this video, just know that you need to have clarity about what is the trajectory, what's the journey that you want to take people on in your retreat. Once you're clear about that, that'll lead you to have a theme and an intention for your retreat. And from that theme and that intention, you can derive your branding and your marketing. You want to come up with a snazzy name for your retreat, and if possible, create some sort of one sheet or brochure or one-page website. I say one sheet or one page because what I see often at this juncture is that people overinvest time and energy and money into the marketing materials. And what you really just need is something simple and the call to action to get on the phone with you if they're interested. And that brings me to my next step of having a great retreat, which is to sell it first and figure out the details later. Now, before I dive into what that means, I do want to take a moment to invite you to like this video, subscribe to my channel, support me because I would really appreciate it and it helps me get more views on my videos. Thank you. So, sell it first, figure it out later is about creating enough to get people interested and then enrolling them with a deposit or even a full payment before you've actually nailed down all of the details. One of the biggest things that I see that people do wrong is that they overproduce the event before they've even sold it. What this can look like is putting down a hefty deposit on a space before you've even made sure that somebody wants to buy the retreat. So I'm a big fan of what I call sell the promise, not the production. That means that it's not contingent on your retreat being in a specific locale. That it's basically the thing that they're buying is the experience, not the location, not the venue. Now, it can be awesome to have an incredible venue or location, but that, in my opinion, if you want to have a retreat business, you don't want to make that the number one focus unless you're running some sort of travel retreat business, meaning that people are enrolling in your retreat because of where you're going rather than because of the transformation that you're delivering. So sell the promise, not the production, is all about getting really clear about the transformation and starting to enroll people in that transformation before you even do any really hardcore planning and logistics. Once you've got a few people at least enrolled and you've talked to them and you know what they need and you're planning the overall promise of the retreat, this is probably a good time to maybe plop down some money, make a deposit on a venue, start to clarify the agenda and the planning of the retreat, the logistics like food and accommodations and specifics around that. Now, this is where the question about do you charge your clients for accommodations or do you include that in the retreat? I personally do not include that in my retreats. My retreats, they're buying the experience and then the accommodations are usually separate. Now that said, I lead business retreats, which are kind of like mini business conferences. So it's pretty much expected that accommodations will not be included. If you're doing some sort of wellness retreat or spiritual retreat or yoga retreat, most often those types of retreats do include accommodations. But just know that it's up to you, that there are people doing it both ways. So this is where you'll want to look at things like meals and activities and how you're going to design the experience in a specific location. From there, you'll want to set up a detailed agenda. My agendas go day by day, hour by hour. I know what we're covering and when. And specifically, I take people through a journey. If you want to learn more about the journey that I take clients on, you can watch some of my other videos that I'm releasing at the same time as this one, where I walk people through my process of delivering transformation at a retreat. Another thing you'll want to think about is, are you going to be the primary and sole facilitator, or are you going to bring other people in? Now, sometimes it can be very tempting to get a whole bunch of other people to lead the retreat, and I recommend not doing that. I recommend, especially if you're setting this up as a foundation of a retreat business, I recommend you leading the retreat primarily and bringing in support people to help you, or maybe one or two other facilitators, but not too many. Another thing you'll want to think about is materials, gifts, art. Right? One of the things that you might do is, are you going to have activities like a creative workshop? You might need materials for that. I always, or almost always, include some sort of craft experience in my retreat to help to integrate whatever transformation or breakthrough they're having so that they have something physical at the end of the retreat that they take with them. So gift packages, gifts, craft materials, things like that, printed materials. Maybe you'll have a printer on site. Maybe you'll print ahead of time. All of those things. You may want to consider having an event planner at the retreat on site, either beforehand helping you out or at the very least having somebody on site. You don't want to be the person that people are coming to if their room is 5 degrees too cold, right? You want somebody else to handle those problems if possible. Obviously, you want to think about the arrival experience. That's one of the most important moments when somebody first shows up at the retreat, how they're going to feel, how they're going to be welcomed. Do you have a welcome meal or a special welcome drink or a special welcome gift on the bed, etc. And then another thing to think about is how are you going to keep your energy up during the retreat? It can be very depleting to lead a retreat, especially if people have a lot of access to you. One of the things that I like to do is give myself a room off-site or give myself a room that's tucked away that people don't have access to. And I put a star on the door and say, hey, this is private space, do not enter. Otherwise, you might find yourself being besieged by people at all hours of the day. And of course, ultimately, you definitely want to have some sort of mechanism to check in with people during the retreat. How are they doing? Is the experience going well? And identify and red flags along the way quickly and deal with them quickly. Sometimes retreats can be places where people get triggered or they have intense emotions, right? Making sure people feel safe, supported, that it's a safe container, that it's confidential, establishing all those rules at the outset of the retreat, maybe even having people sign some sort of form agreeing to keep things confidential, some sort of release form, thinking about liability. Oh, another thing I almost forgot is insurance. If you're doing live retreats, you got to have insurance, and you can find insurance at the place that we use is theeventhelper.com, theeventhelper.com. And no, we're not an affiliate or anything. That's just who we use. Finally, you want to make sure that you have some process for integration of the experience and also for people to share their wins, their breakthroughs, their ahas, and even their feedback after the experience. I do not recommend having a forum on site at the retreat for feedback. I recommend gathering that later in some sort of post-event survey. I hope this was helpful for you. I know there was so much here and there's so much more that I could talk about. Good luck with your retreat. And if you want help in figuring out how to monetize your retreats and how to turn these retreats into long-term revenues, having a big back end for your business, let's connect. You can find out more about how I work at superstarbusinessbreakthrough.com.